Namaste and welcome to this exciting episode of Sattology, debunking mythology. Sat means truth, eternal, and many other words can be attributed to Sat, root word for truth, also absolute truth. And Logos means the study or science. Sattology means the science of truth, science of eternity, because truth is always truth. 1 + 1 is equal to 2 is good for a kindergarten as well as a PhD, because it's cannot change. It's always correct. Ekadinena, that is Vedic mathematics mantra for 1 + 1, just one addition. And so Sattology means science of truth. Opposite of that is mythology, a study or science of fake, lie, or imagination. Myth is a root word for mithya and many other Sanskrit words, including English words. Myth, which is being used there, which is directly from Sanskrit. So some people have problem in English, but I can tell you one thing. If you go to etymology, all English words will tie back to ancient Greek and Sanskrit, most of them. Bratra, brother. Matra, mother. You can pita, pad, pita, padre, father, pitra. So it's all can be tied out. So without delay, I have a very, very special guest. He's a vice chancellor of the only media-focused university in India, MCU. And so let us welcome Vice Chancellor Professor K G Suresh. Suresh, you are on mute.
Yes.
So when we talk about journalistic standards, and I'll first come to American media, because American media has become the globally the first paid performances on the TV shows. And most of the times the narrative is taken as news. And like we say that you can interpret Shastras in multiple ways. And nowadays the actual news is also being interpreted and analyzed, overanalyzed. And so that is going on. And I have many, many TV shows of CNN and Fox News who are deliberately working on different types of interpretations. So most of the Americans have stopped watching media. So what are the true dharma? What is the true dharma of journalism? And then we'll come to some Indian media and the English standards they use. Did you hear my question?
Yes. Can you repeat that?
Yeah. I'm saying, what are the journalistic golden standards which the global media should use? And I just explained how the American media is built on narratives today.
Okay. To be very brief, first of all, good evening from India. Namaskar. Greetings from Asia's first media university and India's largest media university, Makhanlal Chaturvedi National University of Journalism and Communication, named after one of the most renowned journalists in Hindi and a patriot to the core, a literature par excellence, Pandit Makhanlal Chaturvedi. This is named after him. He is our source of inspiration. And also welcome to the beautiful lake city of Bhopal in the heart of India. Now, you asked me, what is the original definition of journalism, or what are the basic standards of journalism? I think the first and most important word in journalism is truth. That's most important. It is in pursuit of truth that journalists are supposed to be living. They should be bringing the truth to the people at large, because it is always believed that the people who are at the helm of affairs will always try to suppress the truth. So it is truth that has to be brought before the people, number one. The second most important aspect and related to truth is also, because truth is at the core, you can say accuracy. Accuracy is not indulging in speculations, not indulging in premises, perceptions, misconceptions, but you being accurate to the point in your dialogue with the people at large. The third important aspect of journalism is objectivity. Objectivity is about presenting all facets, presenting both the sides of the coin, presenting all facts to the people, not hiding anything from them, taking different viewpoints and putting it before the people. In a democracy, we believe that the people are supreme and the people are intelligent enough to make a choice. Can we help them make that enlightened choice? In India, for example, in 1975 to 77 witnessed one of the worst chapters of its history, the emergency. But after 2 years, a largely illiterate population, which was given all kinds of, you would say that all kinds of propaganda were dished out to justify the brutalities of that regime. Yet, the semi-literate, the illiterate, they came out and threw out that government. Because it's important in a democracy, it's not for the media to topple governments or to make governments. It is the people who do it. What is our duty is to give them correct information, truth, accurate information, and what is called, objective information. So for me, if you ask me, it is truth, accuracy, and objectivity.
There is a very famous shloka in Mahabharata, which is where it says, Tarko pratishtha shrutoyo vivinna, nasa vrishirya matam na bhinnam, dharmasya tattvam nitam guhayam, mahajana yena gata sapanta. Which is a very informative way. And Yudhishthir is speaking this shloka. And Yudhishthir also refers to 12 Mahajan in Bhagavad Purana, which is Bali Vaya Sakir Vayam. And we generally, the mistranslation is whatever the leaders of society say, sometimes the leaders of society may not be the right, because there are a lot of leaders. Hitler was a leader. And, you just cannot follow them. There's no golden standard. And if you look at the personality of Narada is grave. He talks less, despite his caricature in the media as a patrakar. But he's not like that. He's not a very frivolous person. Everyone has their personality times there, but generally he's described as a very grave person. Otherwise, he would not meet all the kings of the world. He's a teacher of all the kings of the world, most of them. So the Indian culture.
In fact, in Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna himself says that among sages, I am like Narada. He
won't be saying for a light person like that.
Yes.
He's considered to be a grave person. When he comes in, the kings get up from their seats. Yudhishthira Maharaj is greeting him. You won't see Yudhishthira Maharaj greeting everybody, but not like he is considered very special. Now, the standards which he explained, or where we used to go, was he used to take relevant information, not all information. Now, in journalism today, it is minute by minute the breaking news culture. Started from the US, from the Gulf War, 1991, until now. If a Gulf War, we saw minute by minute of what's happening, which tank is getting destroyed. And gradually it has come to such a level in the West, I can say, that it just gets into people's personal lives and destroys it. And that is considered a success. So media has become a tool in the hands of few powerful people to take vengeance against others. So what do you think? Now, Indian media copies the Western standard, so it is coming to India also. Where is the original thought process of Indian news media?
Thank you. And thank you for mentioning Devrishi Narad, because he is the ideal journalist that we should all be following. But unfortunately, we are never taught about it in media curriculum because we feel ashamed. As you rightly said, it is all part of mythology. It's not Sattology. And mythology is certainly not worth teaching in the schools and colleges. So, Narada, just look at his life. Can there be more impartiality on the part of a journalist than him when he meets both the Devas and Asuras? He is equally revered both in the Swargalok and the Patal-lok. He meets everybody. He informs everybody without discrimination. His job, that of a journalist, I still remember that, when I was the Director General at Indian Institute of Mass Communication, because I had invited a police officer known for his anti-Maoist insurgency operations, I had invited him to deliver the lecture, and there were protests against me outside the institution by the Jawaharlal Nehru University Students' Union. And my answer to them was that, look, why are you saying that we should not meet him? If you can invite all party Hurriyat conference, separatist Hurriyat conference leaders, why is it that a truly nationalist officer who is known for breaking the backbone of the Maoist insurgents cannot be listened to? He is coming in an open auditorium. Ask him questions. But who are you to tell me not to listen to him, not to invite him? Their entire protest was that he has violated human rights. I said, what about the human rights being violated by the Naxalites in Chhattisgarh? So, but you will never hear such a thing from Narad Muni. Devrishi Narad Muni would meet everybody. And secondly, what was his mantra? His mantra was always, Lok Kalyan, the welfare of the people at large. So for Lok Kalyan was his Lok Mangal and Lok Kalyan. So his only objective was to ensure that there is peace, that there is no violence against the innocent. For that, he would go to beseech the gods, please intervene. This is the matter. So what does he need? Justice for the people. And that's what a journalist is expected to do. So he canvassed support for that. He campaigned. We are expected to run campaigns. He ran campaigns for the benefit of the downtrodden, the people who were harassed, tortured by the Rakshasas. He went to each one of them. He was a scholar. He read and wrote. How many of journalists today read? The crisis before media is there because people are writing without reading and speaking without listening. So, says Narada is there. The example of Narad Muni. The example of Sanjaya Uach of Bhagavad Gita. He was the world's first television correspondent who was streaming live what was happening in the battlefield of Kurukshetra. And he was telling to the blind king Yudhishthira, Dhritarashtra, what was happening on the battlefield without any malice. The truth as it was. It may be bitter for his master, but he gave a live coverage. Unlike today, when facts are distorted, videos are mutilated, pictures are morphed to prove a point. Sanjaya showed live the battlefield, what was happening exactly there, gave him a verbatim report without his own views, mixing his own views with the news. These are all the great traditions of journalism that we had. It might not have been called journalism in that sense of the term, but it was communication. It was communication of the highest order, where the credibility of the communicator was intact. People believed in the communicator. Dhritarashtra knew that Sanjay was morally and ethically in support of dharma, not adharma. But in spite of that, Dhritarashtra, despite all his shortcomings, chose Sanjaya to understand what was happening in the battlefield of Kurukshetra, because he knew that at the end of the day, he wanted impartial reporting, not people who would gloss over the facts, people who would suppress the facts, but who would truthfully report to him what was exactly happening. So he chose Sanjaya, despite knowing that Sanjaya's leanings were towards dharma and the dharmic forces. We have a tradition of, thousands of years of critical thinking. Today they say that, that one should ask questions. But you look at our history, from Yama and Yudhishthira to Nachiketa to, you just Yagyavalkya, you just go into the, history that we have, you will find thousands of years of unstoppable questioning, debates of Adi Shankaracharya and Mandana Mishra. We have a centuries of history of debates, arguments. So how is it that this country, where we can, and today when they use terms like, Godi media to abuse a particular section of the media, they fail to understand our history, our, traditions, where we have never, unlike the Western concept of communication, which is based out of an adversarial relationship between the media and the rest. Today's, the journalism, that the media, the communication that we practiced was based on the traditions of Sadharanikaran, the traditions of Bharat Muni's Natya Shastra, where the communication was from an internal level. There was something called an internal communication, something called a spiritual communication. Without understanding that, we have been blindly following the Western models, as a result of which today the credibility of our media is at a very unprecedented low than ever before. People are hardly watching news. People are watching all kinds of content except news. And the kind of polarization that has taken place is unprecedented. That is because the media has stopped behaving like media, reporting the facts, but has started, I can give you n number of examples, provided the time permits, even the latest examples of how things are being presented in a distorted way. Because today, when we go out in the field, we have already made up our mind what the story is going to be. Unlike when I used to do journalism, say 4 decades back, 3 decades back, we would go with an open mind, open ears, open eyes, and we will report whatever we see, rather than seeing things as we are expected to report.
There's a very nice shloka in our Vedic literature called Atmate Manyate Jagat. So what you are in your mind, you see the world. That's the interpretation in your mind. So if a foolish person sees it, he's going to see everything in a foolish way. Everyone has their own perspective. Absolutely. Now, when it comes to Narad Muni, I have done Narad Muni is a great personality. I've done a little bit research on Bhagavad Puran and Mahabharata. I've written a book on him also, The Making of a Statesman. And his instructions to Yudhishthir are pretty much part of Chanakya's Arthashastra, very much. And Chanakya says it openly also. He says in the beginning, my information has come from Ramayana, Mahabharata, Veda, Shruti, and Smriti. He says that. And Bhagavad Gita, he quotes it. Now, the today's journalist, now if you look at the personality you quoted Narad Muni, if you look at him, because not all news is said, now you will never see a Ravana Shastra, Ravanayan written there. No, because his character is not worth talking about. The information which is given, which is for the general upliftment for the whole society. And that's where the journalism is a very important, if people want to consider Ravana as their guru on journalism, then they have to follow the standards of Narad Muni also. Sorry, Narad as a role model. They have to consider the standards of Narad Muni also. But today's journalism is Maya, like they're following Mayasur, who is creating different kinds of illusions to delude the masses. And we become a tool in their hands. Like I'll give you an example. You said about something about Indian journalism. And there was one journalist very famously recently he quoted, let's be honest. They say a lot of times. He says, let's be honest. As a human being, we are supposed to be honest all the time, not just one time. And I quoted on the Facebook, I said, after that, the garbage follows. Let's be honest. And then the garbage starts after that. But the point is, we are supposed to be honest all the time. And there has to be responsibility of multiple aspects. Like, for example, we are living in a media world. Unfortunately, the social media is not put to the same standards as a regular media. They should be, because the content, it creates riots. What happened in Bangladesh, we all know. It was live streamed, and it has created violence so many places. Bangladesh is one example, and Africa, Angola was another example, Ghana was another example, Nigeria was another example, US was another example, great example, the US itself. So most of the Western world have armed media, and that's their tool for neo-colonization, which Indian journalists don't even understand. And India doesn't have a global media platform, just like the US has. And in some ways, I am not support China in any way, but they've taken some good steps. They have banned Western media in their own countries, and because they know that's a tool of the colonial masters. And they have banned other things also. They banned Bible, they banned Quran too, because they do not want the foreign ideologies to affect their control over their own nation. And if you look at other countries like Russia, Japan, and even South American countries, they all have rules where the Western media can operate in their countries or not. So the concept of free media or irresponsible media is now coming to a pass. Now we need to create new standards, and I always believe in that we have enough philosophical historical background to create our own standards of journalism and force it down to at least Indian channels, because people are looking up to Indian channels now. Americans are looking up to Indian channels to get information about their own country. So what is that you advise based on what you have observed?
Absolutely. I think very valid points made by you. In fact, when we are eyeing for a UN Security Council membership, we are eyeing to become a Vishwa Guru. When we are eyeing to, look at the world, when we want the world to look up to us, it is important that the world gets to understand our perspective of what is happening in the world. China has, as you rightly pointed out, CCTV. France has France 24. Russia has Russia Today. Americans have CNN. British have BBC. The Arabs have Al Jazeera. What do we have? There was up to a long time in India, we referred to West Asia as Middle East. We did not even refer to it as West Asia. It is actually West Asia for us, not Middle East. Middle East is for Europe. we refer to, you would be surprised to know that not once but thrice the Parliament of India unanimously passed a resolution asserting that the whole of Jammu and Kashmir, including Gilgit, Baltistan, northern areas, the Muzaffarabad, the entire area is an integral part of India. Yet, you would be surprised to know that happenings in Gilgit, Baltistan, and other places are reported in the foreign page of our newspapers. Why is it that if the Parliament of India can take a stand, why are we not reporting happenings, atrocities, which are happening day in and day out in Pakistan occupied Kashmir, where the people don't have even enough educational facilities or any facilities for that matter. But we are not focusing on that. So it is important that we look at the world from our perspective, how decisions are, global decisions. Today, India is a major supplier of COVID vaccine. It is now being referred to as vaccine diplomacy. India is growing as a medical hub of the world. The new education policy will make it an education hub of the world also. Our soft power being promoted adequately. Who will take our version to the whole world? China has a national communication university. When I was the Director General at IIMC, Indian Institute of Mass Communication, I tried to convert it into one and even got it deemed to be university status. But unfortunately, that hasn't moved forward. Don't we, as a nation of 1.38 billion, deserve a national communication university to serve as a think tank for the entire media and mass communication? Now, my humble attempt is to take this National University of Journalism into a national communication university. We need platforms which can take. We have tried it many times with Doordarshan, DD India, and stuff like that. But that is not enough. The world needs to watch us, not just the diaspora. It is important that the world starts watching us. If I want to today understand what is happening in, not only in Britain, but what is Britain's perspective of the world, I need to look at BBC. Similarly, the globe is interested in knowing whether it is environmental issues, climate change, trade. The globe is interested in knowing how does India look at these issues, because the decisions taken by India are going to have a global impact. But unfortunately, we don't have a platform. And we saw it during Corona, that how the Western media, using all stereotypes, tried to project us as the most backward nation in the world, with headlines like, I remember the Australian headline which said, Indians are dying, dying, and dying. Though at that time, we had less than 5,000 people who were dying of Corona in a day compared to the United States. Yet, they were referring to India as not just even a catastrophe, just beyond, catastrophe. That's how the Western media tried to project us. They used the word apocalypse. That is the kind of words that they used. But that is because we did not have a media to put across our viewpoint or to look at the world from our viewpoint. I totally agree. I believe that India should focus in consonance with its emerging global stature. It should have an independent media which should project India in its, and get it its due place under the sun.
British Broadcasting Corporation and private cable news operators like CNN and AFP, Associated Press of US, they are supported by CIA, and they are posted as journalists in every major capital of the world And in every city, major city of the world, including India, there are at least a couple of people in India also posted for them. And they report the news from their perspective. And there is a system of creating atrocity literature, which you must be knowing very well, which means that they're constantly, local people are paid to highlight all the negative things. Now, I've written, my last book came out, Gold, Glory, and God, and I was myself shocked in my own book research that what has happened over the world. 6th century is where the terror started, and that all started from papal bull from Vatican Church. And Muslims always copied the Vatican Church. Whatever they do, they copy it. And so they copied it from Byzantine Empire and the Ottoman Empire fight. Now, this is a historical context. The point is that this concept, American and Europe, if you look at the human rights record locally, that's why there is a BLM. Indians don't understand. Virat Kohli kneeling down doesn't understand what BLM stands for. Doesn't understand. Indian team is like working on George Soros campaign or probably paid by them to kneel. But anyone will understand it's a genuine movement. But what happened in America because of that movement, critical race theory has risen because of what has happened. Almost 15 million Native Americans were wiped out from USA and Canada by European settlers. Almost 30 to 40, entire Europe is a conquered territory by the Vatican Church. Most of the natives of Europe, Germanic tribes, Franco tribes, ancient Greeks were wiped out, crusades. And that's why they are rising up. That never happened in India. The entire definition of left and right of the West doesn't apply to India because the majority of the India has never done that kind of criminal activities. But there is not a single media report or in India that we are questioning that. China is doing that. China, when they sit on the table with USA, they say, you don't have a good human rights track record. Don't teach us what is it. What is it? You have wiped out Native Americans. You put up African Americans as slaves. And what you have done to them is unthinkable even by any standards of the world. What you have done. Like separated the children from the mother, and all the children were put into the Christian missionaries. I live in California, 21 missions. I call them a terror hubs. What happened over there? And so our media doesn't even understand that. Especially, I'm not saying ours.
They don't report what is happening in the neighborhood in Bangladesh.
Exactly.
I mean, the kind of, what is happening there, a genocide that is happening there, nobody is talking about it except for some superficial reports. And the emphasis is more on how the great Sheikh Hasina is very, aptly, dealing with it. That is the report. The focus is on that, how secular she is and how she is dealing with it. If she is that secular, why she does not declare Bangladesh as a secular state? Why is it still an Islamic republic?
So I'm saying that the Indian media has lost the narrative. Like if India has to become the world leader, and it's already one of the largest democracies, it has to also question these things. In Pakistan, Pakistan always accuses India of human rights abuses against Muslims. But India has never questioned that Hindus are wiped out in Pakistan. That should be the Indian government's or Indian media's main thing, journalism. And what is happening in Afghanistan is a different matter against Sikh. But there is no media output which is coming out which can affect or force an American policymaker to sit back and listen. Why do you think so?
It is because we have been groomed on this very staple diet of secularism, which prohibits us from talking anything about Hindus, about the majority community. Because if you talk about it, it comes under the rubric of majoritarianism. So even if there are states in this country where majority is in a minority, yet any torture against them is never reported at all. It is because of this very false, which the so-called left liberals have practiced over the last so many decades, that even today, nobody is willing to, if anybody talks about Hinduism or Sanatana Dharma or anything related to it, he is immediately dubbed as obscurantist obsolete, outdated, fundamentalist, retrograde, Islam, communal, you name it. And nobody wants to have that label. And this is after 7 years of a nationalist government in power. They are made to believe that this is a fluke, this is a freak. Earlier they said 2014 was a fluke, and then now they are saying 2019 was also a freak. So they'll say everything will change in 2024. But it has nothing to do with government. It's about an attitude. And that is the staple diet. Can you come to think of it? I'm talking about one of my friends whose children study in a traditional school run by nationalist organization. Told me that one of the chapters he found in his daughter's, textbook was the great Mughals. Now, that is the level in which, these people operate. And the parent, the alert parent alerted the principal of the school and the authorities, look what is being taught. They immediately realized it, that this is an inadvertent mistake. But that is the level of penetration they have. That even in schools which are, teaching cultural nationalism, even there you have all these kinds of stuff that is, taking place. In a country where even today, people venerate Tipu Sultan. You can imagine the kind of atrocities he, perpetrated on the people. But today you have roads which are named after, the most horrific, people who indulged in ethnic cleansing. If that is being taught in school textbooks about their greatness in many schools across, what is it that will come out? What is it that they will, what is the kind of, because at the end of the day, the journalist is not coming from anywhere outside. He is coming from this society itself. So it is important that the parents also instill a sense of pride. Don't expect only the schools to do it through the textbooks. Don't expect only the state to do it. Are you doing enough? So if you say that, yes, I am, I am a Sanatani, but I leave it to my children, they are liberals. Let them live the way they want. No, it won't work. I think that the Indian society should realize, yes, we are Hindus. We will never, we will never be anybody else. We will never behave like others. But at the same time, let us be proud of our ancestry, our identity. That has to be realized. And this has to, and the journalist is also a byproduct of this society itself. And yes, you are right. In our media schools also, we should tell them about Indian concepts, the Indian traditions, Indian communication traditions. This is also important to be imparted. Otherwise, their entire study is based on foreign textbooks, foreign theories. Come to think of it, I had to remove from the curricula. They were actually teaching Marxism in journalism school at the Indian Institute of Mass Communication. Marxism was a proper unit in the course. Now, this is the kind of, the level in which they are operating. They have penetrated academics like anything and media because they know. And even today, I would say that, there is a very, very strong, these are the two areas, academics and media, where you see a left intellectual domination even today. And that explains to a great extent. And I think that the American academia is also, very much influenced by the left liberals. So that impact is there in India also.
First of all, the most of the, I know I'm taking most of your time. This is my last question, actually. You have to go somewhere. So the concept of left is a French concept, means anti-monarch. The concept of secularism is anti-church, because church controls people's sex lives also. So that's why people don't like church, because in the West, majority of 58% of Americans don't like to go to church mostly, or they go to a church which is less intruding. So a lot of new churches are coming up. Latter-day Saints and all the different churches are there. So the left is anti-monarch, and people. So if you look at the Indian civilization, Hindu, it's an open thought. It's an open book. The word liberal in India doesn't make sense because Sanatan Dharma by itself encourages everyone to follow their pursuits. It's called Swadharma. So the liberal is a foreign word which we don't need in India. Left is a foreign word which is there is no monarchy. India always was a Loktantra. So Loktantra means you can remove the king through a popular council of ministers very clearly. And the concept of journalism earlier, if you look at Mahabharata and Ramayana, is done through Brahman who are self-controlled, who cannot be influenced by bribes. They have their own moral traditions. They are the people who used to send news from one area to another news. So the liberal is not needed in India, left is not needed in India. The only thing which remains is, when I tell the Americans, I say I'm neither left nor right, I'm dharmic. So that means I can be on any side. And some of the values, like it is the nature of the intelligent people to question the wrong acts of anybody in power. That is a common sense. So many of the Western concepts are not needed in India. And somehow that's why I say the English connotation understanding problem is big time, because in India, English is not our language. My language is Marathi and Hindi and Punjabi. So I'm speaking English, but my processor is different. So the point which I'm saying is lot of things need to be debunked, rewritten for India. The left, what you say in the West is not left here. In the left in the US means anti-church. Conservative means the church people. So we don't understand anything. In India, the same person can be liberal, same person can be conservative, because the concept is different. Sanatan Dharma means Swadharma. Truth, wherever the truth is, that's where I'll go. And sometimes the truth also has to be relative. Like I'm not going to tell the truth to everyone else. That's called diplomacy then, kutniti. So the point which I'm trying to say is that we need to debunk
How truth is to be told. How the truth is to be told. You see, when Yudhishthira says Ashwathama Hata, Narova Kunjara, then he says it in a hushed tone, the latter part of it. Because is the truth in the larger interests of the society and the nation? That is important. If it is an uncomfortable truth, it is like we all know that our parents had sex, that is why we are here. But does it mean that we talk about it all the time? No, we don't. So it's as simple as that there are many things which are not necessarily told to everybody. What happens in bedrooms, you don't need to tell. These are things which are already known. So the entire concept of what is truth, how much of it is to be told, which is in the larger interest, it has to be measured. There is nothing called absolute truth. There are also a lot of perspective. How you see things is different from how I see things. I come from a different circumstance, a different background. My worldview is different. Your worldview is different. So how can they say use terms like post-truth and other things? Your truth is different. Mine is different. But there is a universal truth that also has to be accepted. Say the sun rises in the east and sets in the west. That's a universal truth. So can we compromise on that? So the issue is that it is important. I totally agree with you that it is because of our indifference to our own dharma. It is because of our own indifference to our own, way of life that we are unable to interpret either the Western or the Eastern concept itself. We always very loosely use the word dharma for religion. Dharma is not religion, but we use it. So is the case with so many terminologies, because we never consider it important to study. That is important. You will have the Christian child who goes to the church every Sunday and he has a Sunday school. I don't know how it is in the US, but in India it is there. Every day the Maulvi comes to Muslim households. So even if the student is studying in the best of public English medium public schools, he or she has to, the Maulvi teaches them the Quran. But when it comes to our children, with rare exceptions, how many of us even bother to take them to the temple? How many of us talk to about, you and I know about this, Swadharma, how much of freedom is there in our society? We are liberal by nature, but these things have to be told. Who are there to tell? Our grandparents have stopped telling stories. We don't give them exposure. Our students, the younger generation is totally hooked on to anime. They are watching Japanese serials. They are watching K-dramas and C-dramas. They are not getting Indian content. So it is important that we give them Indian content. That is important. There is no dearth of storytellers in our country. But are we telling them the right kind of stories? That is important. So it is important that it is the primary responsibility of the Sanatani parents also to ensure that the children get the right kind of grooming, the right kind of teaching at home. That is also important, because these concepts, the skewed concepts, are taught in the schools. So do we spend time at our home in our discussions, or do we consider it a waste of time? Do we only discuss celebrities, uncles, aunts, or do we also during family time, do we also discuss dharmic issues? Are there dharmic discussions within the families on our concepts? I think that is also important. Only that can bring about that much required changes.
You're very much right. Japanese follow a similar culture like ours, and their schools and most of the Japanese anime are built on Japanese characters only. You will not find American characters there, even though American churches have tried their best to infiltrate Japan. We all know the story of Gold, Glory, and God, that how syncretism and inculturation have been the hallmarks of Vatican strategy to destroy the native cultures. And the future politics will be on natives versus non-natives. That means the people who are converted and who are not converted. So thank you so much for sharing your thoughts. And if you'd like to add anything to that, please do that as closing words.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure as always. This is the second time I got the opportunity to be on platform, and I'm really delighted. I wish there are similar audiences back home in India also who would be interested in these topics. So I would request you to expand your footprint, because Slowly. I believe that more than the Americans, I think it is we Indians who need these kind of platforms wherein we need to reach out to the younger generation. Yes, some attempts are being made, but for a country of 138 billion, 1.38 billion, that is not good enough. I think that we are a very huge population with a lot of potential. The only thing is that we need to harness that strength, that power, that innate strength that alone can change the world. That only has the potential to take the world in the right direction. I, pray for more strength to more power to your elbow, more power to you. Thank you so much.
You are the Vice Chancellor of the university, and you're the topmost figure. And I think once you make this video viral in your channel, and I would like to invite many people from your university. Thank you.
Sure. I look forward. Thank you so much.
Namaste.